My sister-in-law locked me in a dark closet during my baby shower because she has infertility. She knew I have severe claustrophobia and was 7 months pregnant. But when my in-laws discovered the truth, what they did to her left her speechless. I'm 28 years old. I've been married to Aaron for 3 years. And what happened at my baby shower several months ago still keeps me up at night sometimes. The thing is, my sister-in-law Lindsay, well, actually her name is Connie, but we all used to call her Lindsay when we were kids, basically tried to kill me and my baby. And I'm not exaggerating. She literally locked me in a closet knowing I have severe claustrophobia. I guess I should start from the beginning so you understand the whole situation, because this didn't come out of nowhere, although at the time I didn't see the signs, that now, looking back, were crystal clear. Aaron and I got married when we were both 25. It was a really nice wedding in my parents' backyard. Nothing too fancy, but very beautiful. And from the beginning, the relationship with his family was good. Or so I thought. His sister, Connie, is 30 years old and has been married to Jason for 5 years, and she always seemed like a normal person. You know, maybe a little competitive, but nothing out of the ordinary. When Aaron and I decided to try for a baby after 3 years of marriage, I honestly didn't think it would cause any problems. But it turns out Connie and Jason had been trying to get pregnant for like 2 years without success. They had started fertility treatments, IVF and all that stuff, which, by the way, is super expensive, and Aaron's in-laws, Sandra and Harold, were helping them financially with everything because Connie and Jason had just opened a business together that wasn't doing very well yet. When I got pregnant, it was literally on the first try, which I felt super lucky about, obviously, but it also made me feel a little bad because I knew Connie was struggling with that. We had a small dinner to announce the pregnancy, just close family, like my parents, Aaron's parents, Connie and Jason, and some aunts and uncles. I remember when we announced it, everyone screamed and got super excited. Hugs all around, champagne, which I obviously couldn't drink, and in the middle of all that I noticed Connie was sitting on the couch with a face that wasn't exactly happiness. She didn't say anything bad, didn't make a scene, but she had that expression like she had just bitten into a lemon. You know what I mean? Aaron told me later that I was being paranoid, that Connie was just tired from work, and I wanted to believe him because honestly, I didn't want family drama. The next few months were pretty normal. We went to medical appointments, we bought a new house because our apartment was too small for a baby, and we started planning the baby shower. Sandra, my mother-in-law, is one of those wealthy and very decisive ladies. Like, if she says something is going to be done a certain way, that's how it gets done, and she insisted that the baby shower had to be at my new house because she wanted everyone to see how beautiful it was. The house was practically empty still because we had just moved in. We had basic furniture, but nothing else. And there was a supply closet in the second-floor hallway that we were using to store boxes and random stuff while we organized everything. The day of the baby shower came, and honestly, everything was going perfectly. We had decorated with pink and white balloons because we already knew it was a girl. There were like 40 people between family and friends. The food was delicious. The games were fun. And I felt super happy, although also exhausted, because being almost 7 months pregnant is no joke. Connie arrived with Jason, and I noticed she was acting weird. Like she smiled when people talked to her, but you could tell it was forced. And she spent most of the time in a corner with her phone. At one point, after I had opened like half the gifts, Connie came up to me and said if we could talk privately, that she wanted to apologize for being distant lately. I thought, okay, good, that we're finally going to clear things up, because I had definitely noticed she was avoiding me. We went up to the second floor. The party continued downstairs with music and laughter, and she led me to the hallway where the supply closet was. She said something like, I need to show you something in here. I think I left my purse or something. And when she opened the closet door and I leaned in to look, I felt a hard shove on my back and fell to my knees inside the closet. Before I could turn around or understand what was happening, the door slammed shut, and I heard the click of the lock. The darkness was immediate and total. Like, I couldn't see absolutely anything, not even my hand in front of my face. Okay? I need to explain something important here. I've had severe claustrophobia since I was a child. When I was like 7 years old, I got stuck in an elevator for 2 hours, and since then enclosed and dark spaces give me horrible panic attacks. Aaron knows it, his family knows it, everyone who knows me well knows it because it's something I've had to manage my whole life. So when that door closed, my brain basically went into total emergency mode. I started banging on the door and screaming, "Help! Open up! Please! And I could hear Connie on the other side. She didn't say anything, but I know she was there because I heard her footsteps, walking away after a few seconds. Panic took over me in a matter of seconds. My heart was beating so fast I felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. I couldn't breathe properly. My hands were shaking and I was sweating cold. I kept banging on the door, but the music downstairs was too loud, and apparently no one could hear me. Or maybe they thought it was part of the party. I don't know. I tried to stay calm. I told myself, breathe. Someone will come. Aaron will notice you're not there and he'll come up looking for you. But minutes passed, and no one came. The darkness felt like it was swallowing me. The closet walls seemed to get smaller, and I started feeling like I was suffocating, even though there was enough air. My baby. All I could think about was my baby. What if all this stress was hurting her? What if I died in there and no one found us in time? I don't know how much time passed. It was probably like 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. And at some point, I stopped banging on the door because I didn't have the strength anymore. I sat on the floor between the boxes. Or maybe I fell. I'm not sure. And the next thing I remember is everything going black. But not the black of the closet, but like a complete void. I basically passed out. What happened next, Aaron told me when I woke up in the hospital. Turns out he had been looking for me everywhere. He asked everyone if they had seen me. And finally, Melissa and Jennifer, two friends of mine, told him they had seen me go upstairs with Connie. Aaron ran upstairs, heard a thud, which was me falling to the floor. And when he found the closet locked, he had to find a tool to force the door open because he couldn't find the key. When he finally opened the door, he found me lying on the floor unconscious. And he says that in that moment he thought I was dead, that me and the baby were dead. He picked me up, got me out of there, went down the stairs yelling for someone to call an ambulance, and the whole baby shower turned into total chaos. People were screaming. Someone called 911. And I don't remember any of that because I was still unconscious. Aaron took me to the hospital in his car because he didn't want to wait for the ambulance. He says he drove like a maniac, but he didn't care. He just wanted me to be okay. I woke up in the hospital like an hour later, with wires and monitors everywhere, and the first thing I asked was if my baby was okay. The doctors did a ton of tests on me. Ultrasound, baby's heart monitoring, blood work, everything. And thank God the baby was perfectly fine. I had severe dehydration from the panic and stress. My blood pressure was super high, and they had to keep me under observation for at least 24 hours. Aaron was sitting next to my bed with red eyes. You could tell he had been crying, and when I asked him what had happened, he told me everything. He also told me that Connie had left the baby shower immediately after they took me to the hospital, that Sandra was furious but didn't really know what had happened because no one had seen Connie lock me in. The next morning, I was still in the hospital when practically the whole family arrived. Sandra, Harold, Jason, my parents, and obviously Aaron. Sandra came in with that general energy she has and asked me directly what exactly had happened. I told her everything, from when Connie asked me to talk privately, the shove, the locked door, the 20 minutes trapped until I passed out. Jason was there and went pale when he heard the story, and Sandra literally stood up and said, "I'm going to kill that girl. I'm going to kill her myself." Harold, who is normally super quiet and never gets involved in family drama, was shaking his head like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Aaron was trembling with rage, his hands in fists, and I had to grab his arm so he wouldn't go looking for Connie right then. Sandra called Connie and told her to come to the hospital immediately, that we all needed to talk. Connie arrived like an hour later with Jason, and the face she had was of someone who knows they're in trouble, but is going to try to get out of it by lying. She walked into my hospital room, and the first thing she said was, "Oh my God, Elizabeth, you're okay." I was so worried. With that fake voice people use when they're acting. Sandra didn't let her continue with the theater and asked her directly, "Did you lock Elizabeth in the closet?" Connie looked at me, then looked at her mom, and said, "It was just a prank." I didn't think she would react like that. I thought she could handle being in there for a few minutes. A prank. She said it was a prank. In that moment, I couldn't even speak. I was so angry. I literally felt like I was going to explode. And Aaron stood up and yelled at her. "A prank? You know she has severe claustrophobia. You know she's pregnant, and you call it a prank?" Connie started crying, those obvious crocodile tears, and said she was so sorry, that it wasn't her intention to hurt me, that she just wanted me to feel a little bit of what she felt watching everyone celebrate my pregnancy while she couldn't have children. That's when Sandra brought out what I call her most brutal side. She walked up to Connie and said, "So this is about jealousy? You tried to hurt your pregnant sister-in-law because you're jealous?" Connie tried to deny it, but Sandra continued, "I knew you were angry. You've been insufferable these last few months every time someone mentions Elizabeth's pregnancy, but I thought you were adult enough to handle your emotions. It turns out I was wrong." At that point, I intervened. I was tired, scared, angry, and basically said something like, "I need you as a family to decide. Right now, either you're on my side and recognize that what Connie did was an attempt to hurt me and my baby, or you're on her side, and Aaron and I are leaving. I'm not going to have someone who literally locked me in a closet until I passed out near me or my daughter when she's born." Sandra didn't even hesitate. She looked at Connie and said, "You're cut off from this family until Elizabeth decides to forgive you. If she ever does, and forget about the money for fertility treatments, I'm not going to finance anything else for someone who almost killed my granddaughter." Connie completely broke down right there, fell to her knees, crying, literally on her knees on the hospital floor, begging for forgiveness, saying she wouldn't do it again, that she was sorry, to please not take away the treatment money because it was her only hope of becoming a mother. Jason was standing there not knowing what to do. He looked super uncomfortable and embarrassed. I didn't feel a shred of pity in that. A moment. Honestly, I just wanted her to leave my room and let me rest. Sandra and Harold left with Connie and Jason, and I stayed with Aaron and my parents. The doctors let me go home the next afternoon, with instructions for rest and zero stress, which was ironic considering everything that had just happened. The following weeks were weird. No one in Aaron's family mentioned Connie. It was like she didn't exist, and I was honestly focused on recovering and preparing for the baby's arrival. But then, like 8 days after all the drama, Connie did something incredibly stupid. She posted on social media, on Facebook specifically, a long post where she basically painted me as the villain. She said that I had humiliated her publicly, that I had manipulated her family to reject her, that I didn't understand her pain of not being able to have children, and that what happened at the baby shower had been exaggerated by me to make her look bad. She didn't directly mention that she had locked me in the closet. She just said there was a misunderstanding and that I had suffered a panic attack, but that wasn't her fault. The post went viral among our mutual acquaintances, and I started receiving messages from people asking what had really happened. Some people who didn't know the whole story were commenting on her post, saying things like, "Poor Connie, the family is so cruel, fertility problems are so hard, and people don't understand." I was furious but also exhausted. I didn't have the energy to get into social media wars, so I simply blocked Connie from all my accounts and asked Aaron to talk to his mom about this. Sandra saw the post because someone sent her a screenshot, and she called Connie to tell her that if she didn't delete it immediately, she was going to make the whole real story public, including the fact that she locked me in knowing about my claustrophobia and that I was pregnant. The post disappeared in less than an hour, but the damage was already done. A lot of people had seen and shared it, and I ended up looking like the bad guy to a bunch of people who didn't know all the details. Fast forward like 6 weeks. I gave birth to my daughter a month before this update. I'm telling now, it was a natural birth without complications, and she was born perfectly healthy. Aaron and I were in the hospital when she was born, and Sandra and Harold came to meet her like 2 hours later. Sandra held her and started crying, said she was the most beautiful baby she had ever seen in her life, which obviously every grandmother says, but it still made me feel good. At no point did they mention Connie, and I didn't ask either. But it turns out things got even worse for Connie after all this. Like 2 weeks after my daughter was born, Jason asked her for a divorce. I found out through Sandra that the marriage had been bad since before the baby shower incident. The business they had together was losing money. The fights were constant, and the closet thing was the straw that broke the camel's back for Jason. He told her he couldn't be married to someone capable of doing something like that he had lost all respect for her, and that besides, without Sandra's money for fertility treatments, there was no point in continuing to try to have children together. They decided to sell the business because neither of them could buy out the other's share, and Connie had to move back in with some aunts and uncles because she didn't have money to pay rent alone. Sandra and Harold maintained their position of no contact with her unless she came with a sincere apology to me. Not just nice words, but that she fully acknowledged what she did and the consequences it could have had. As far as I know, Connie never came to really apologize. She sent a text message like 3 weeks later saying, "I'm sorry if I made you feel bad," which isn't a real apology because it doesn't acknowledge what she did. Now my daughter is like 6 weeks old. She's beautiful and perfect. And when I look at her, I can't help but think about what could have happened that day in the closet if Aaron hadn't found me in time. The doctors told me afterward that the extreme stress I suffered could have caused premature labor, or even something worse, and that I was lucky it only resulted in dehydration and high blood pressure. Sometimes at night when I'm giving her a bottle, I think about Connie and wonder if she really regrets it, or if she's just angry because she faced consequences for her actions. The relationship with Sandra and Harold is better than ever. They come to visit the baby like 3 times a week. They bring gifts, help with whatever we need, and Sandra has told me several times that she regrets not seeing before what kind of person her daughter really was. Aaron still doesn't talk to Connie. He says he can't forgive that she put his wife and daughter at risk that way, and honestly, I support him in that decision. Part of me feels sorry for Connie, like life dealt her a difficult hand with the fertility problems and all that, but another part of me, the bigger part, feels anger and betrayal because what she did to me was intentionally cruel and dangerous. My friends, Melissa and Jennifer, who witnessed me going upstairs with Connie that day, have been super supportive. They even offered to give written testimony about what they saw in case Connie tried to deny the story legally or something. It hasn't come to that, thank God, but it's good to know I have people who saw with their own eyes that she led me to that closet. Last week my daughter laughed for the first time. It was just a small sound, but Aaron and I went crazy with excitement. In that moment, seeing her there so happy and healthy, I felt like all the drama and pain of the pregnancy had been worth it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully forgive Connie. I guess time will tell. But for now, I'm focused on my little family, on Aaron and our daughter, and on building a life where she's safe and surrounded by people who truly love her. And that's enough for now, I guess.